guys, hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander Tactical. Something that I've always had an opinion on, which I don't feel is voiced enough in the outdoors tactical community enough. And that's when we're talking about gloves. So everybody thinks of gloves and you think of your tactical gloves, you think of mechanics, you think of your pig, you think of your Halcontex, you think of your Condor 511 tactical. I was sort of struggling to try and think of names there for a second. But a lot of those share certain things in common. So one, nice and durable. Two, good grip on your hands and palm. Good grip on your fingers, that you need to have good grip on your fingers. Also a lot of manual dexterity, which will help, or at least with venting, that will help with manual dexterity. Keep nice and dry, keep nice and tough, all of those sort of things. And I don't know, there's another industry outside of the firearms, airsoft industry that has gloves that ticks every single one of those boxes. But I just don't tend to see a lot of those type gloves outside of its own niche. And that is cycling gloves. These are, I had to check for a second there. These are the, I still had to check again because I've forgotten. These are the Endura Humvee Plus. I think they're actually the Endura Humvee 2 Plus. This is just for me. These are a good example of, you know, why if you're not looking at these style gloves, you're missing out on a bit of a trick. I bought these. I certainly haven't got any sort of endorsement with these, but I thought we'd just take a quick look at why I think these are a great pair of gloves. But I think these really do embody what is the similarities between a decent pair of firearms tactical style gloves and why you shouldn't pass on these style mountain biking cycling style gloves. So let's turn the camera around and we'll have a quick look at the Endura Humvee 2 Pluses. I think they're the 2. Let's just call them the Humvee Plus for now. Okay, so here are the Endura Humvee Plus gloves. I'm sure they are the Plus 2 or the Humvee 2 Pluses, but I'll double check and I'll leave some links below. So just to go through some of the features that kind of I touched on before, but these are the sort of things that you expect from a firearms tactical style glove, but so many of those features you'll see in these sort of mountain biking, cycling style gloves. Now, I will say you really do need to go for your mountain biker, your downhill, even some motocross gloves work exactly the same. You tend to find with some of the long distance cyclist style gloves, they're a lot lighter than these, but then it depends on whether you're after something that you need to do, get out down and dirty, or whether it's just something that you want to keep your hands safe, have a good grip when you're at the range maybe. But there are some good options on here. So as far as materials are concerned, you have this really hard, tough nylon here. It's not a Cordura, but it is a Cordura style material, which is great. Through the knuckles, you have plenty of padding here. This one, not so much, mainly because they want to just make sure you've got as much dexterity through this joint as possible. Whereas here, because these are your outer knuckles, it's like a neoprene material, which again is super tough and also gives some more cushioning. Now, I would say that these are more of a lighter style glove. So if you did want something more like a mechanics glove where you have additional protection here, you can get those style gloves if you look at companies like Fox, if you look at companies like Alpine or even Troily Designs, which are all kind of the head of the top of their game. You can get a lot more protection through here should you want and should you need to. So on here, hopefully as you can see on this side, keeping these three knuckles, which are the ones on the outer side, which generally are going to get bashed on the most, you get that. Then going down through each of the fingers, you also get that additional protection from your knuckle as you then go down to the bends in your fingers, whereas your trigger finger is kept so it's always perfectly free. And to add to that, especially when I talked about the dexterity, so when you look at gloves like the pig, I think they're called the full dexterity range, or whatever they're called. So you have these openings here on the knuckles, again just to make sure that there's no pinch there, and you have as much movement through there as you possibly would need. Now then, going down from here onto the ends, really you don't need as much manual, or at least you don't need as much dexterity on there. It's really that first knuckle that you need to be able to use to get as much grip as possible. So it's great that they have these. Inside is a lighter elasticy style material, but it's still reasonably tough, and the opening isn't too big so that you get lots of dirt and debris in there. Across the thumb, so the thumb itself has a like a microfibery backing to this. This is again something that you'll see a lot in these style mountain biking gloves, mainly because that's there just to help to get some sweat away should you need to. But I mean, it's perfect for a tactical style glove as well. Through on this hand, you can see it certainly doesn't impede any movement in my thumb whatsoever. Generally with your thumb you're going to have that locked in. Really it's the dexterity on your trigger finger that you need to make sure that you've got as much as possible. Moving to the palm, so these are made with a synthetic leather. However, there are lots of other gloves, depending on the price that you want to pay for them, that you can get real leather on there. I believe goat skin is kind of the go-to leather, but there are lots of other leathers, whether they're synthetic leathers or whether they're real leathers as well. This is made from a single piece, which hopefully, as you can see here, so through the thumb, through the palm and down through the fingers, it's just a single piece of leather. There is a small vented section here as well, and that's just to make sure that you get as much movement through the saddle joint here in your thumb as possible. But then when you've got that then gripped in, that will then close to make sure that there's nothing pinching in there. But again, so different companies, similar to your tactical style gloves, will have different setups, whether they're separate fingers or then whether there's additional protection on the palm. These Humvee gloves, how these work is there's like a gel liner on the inside of here. It's very tight, very tough. What it means is it does give your hands some protection. So in the cycling world, especially downhill mountain cycling, this is just going to stop some of that or at least it's going to absorb some of that pressure, take away from things like white finger, should that be something that you're certainly worried about. But works in exactly the same way if you're using this in the firearms. So whatever it is that you're shooting, if it's real steel, or even if it's airsoft, it does help to absorb and alleviate some of that ringing that you might get in your hands after prolonged amounts of fire. But this again, it's vented, or at least there are vented sections in here, so as I close my hand, if I was holding something, it wraps around that to make sure that I've got a perfect grip. If I move this out there, you can see where the folds have gone, and it fits in there perfectly. There's also some tacky, sticky kind of addition to this as well, which is great because it stops any slippage in your hand. And then as we move down to the fingers, you'll see that the trigger finger and the index finger also... Index finger? What's this? Anyway, you know what I mean. Your two fingers at the front. Now these specifically, because they're mountain bike gloves, these are your brake fingers. But in a tactical scenario, it's great that you've got something on there if you're concerned about your finger slipping off the trigger. Now I know I mentioned that there's venting in here. I mean, purely in the fact that you've got these extra bits so that it will close round, but you also have some holes in here to help with moisture or anything like that in your hands. I will say, so I've actually skirmished with these, I want to say 3 times now, and they've kept really well. As soon as, what I find with my gloves, as soon as I've finished a day skirmishing, because let's face it, they absolutely stink, I don't wash these in any sort of detergent or anything. I just take them home, I wash them in some hot warm water and some mild soap. If you use mild soap, you'll find with mild soap it will stop delaminating all of the bits that you've got on here, whereas some of the detergents will delaminate some of these. But yes, mild soap, some warm water, not hot water but warm water, and these have come up really nice each time. The last little bit really is them getting up your wrist onto the closure on your wrist as well. So these again have this neoprene style material which is nice and soft on your wrist. It does have a cuff on here, but it's a very small cuff. I've certainly never found that I've had any issues or any warm spots on the cuff. You can see here that I'm wearing this with my watch, flexing, deflexing of my wrist here, having no issues with this interacting with my watch whatsoever. I do also like the fact that rather than the closure being on the top of the wrist here, which will always get in the way of your watch, the closure is here underneath your wrist, which is nice. The closure on this uses some hook and loop on here. Now this is the new type. I know it's probably not been around like for millions of years, but it's the new type. It has kind of smaller, finer teeth. When it rubs against your hand like that, you don't have any issues with it, but holding that on there, it keeps that closure on, and then just to make sure there's an extra reinforced piece of material on there as well. And they're just really nice. I will say on the inside, so if I just turn this through, so where you can see you had those, so this bit here, there's some felt on the inside as well. Through the inside of your thumb as well, they have the same felt. But that doesn't go down the fingers, so that just means that on the inside of your palm here, again, it just keeps it in a good position in your hand and stops any sort of slippage. One of the best things, and especially here in the UK, one of the massive advantage with these sort of mountain biking gloves is there are so many bike stores all over the UK, whereas unlike places like the US, you can't just go into a gun store if there's a local gun store to you. Well, yeah, I suppose you can, but they're not as readily available to go in and try on some Helican Tex gloves. Let's say you have to have them posted to you, or wherever you get them from, probably Amazon. These style gloves, you know, you can just go into any Halfords, you can go into your local bike store, you can try them on. They all come in different sizes, so this is a large, which is perfect for my hand. I will say for a large hand, these fit just perfectly. They feel like a second pair of skin. But yeah, the availability of these over your more tactical style gloves, they're just easier to find, easier to, you know, go and test them, put them on, see how they fit. If you don't like them, then yeah, you know, you just maybe try on another few pairs while you're in there. Hey, Norm. Now I did mention the list of manufacturers, like I say, your Troy Designs, your Fox Racing, Endura, Alpine. That's not an exhaustive list. The list is huge, mainly because in the downhill, in the mountain biking kind of world, there's just a lot of choice out there for these sort of gloves. You will find that some of them, I wouldn't say garish, but generally they tend to be black with some sort of coloured highlight. But that's not to say that you can't find these. The Endura Humvee Pluses are incredibly kind of low-key looking gloves. And again, depending on whether you want something when you're out skirmishing or doing kind of heavy-duty sort of stuff that you want to keep your hands safe, or whether you're just at the range and you're after something, again, to keep your hands safe, but also to make sure that you've got a good grip on your firearm. There's a lot of choice out there for you, and I think if you're ignoring mountain bike style gloves for a tactical option, then yes, you're definitely missing out. Now I'll leave a link to these below. As I mentioned, there are other manufacturers. Maybe I'll leave some of their links below. I'll leave some of their social media links as well. But I'll also leave some of my social media links so that you can see more from me here on Moorlander Tactical and also on my other channel, Moorlander EDC. But as always, for now, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay tactical. Fiddle with my hat then. Hey, here's a question to all you tactical mother truckers out there. Who likes a good boonie? I'm a massive fan of the boonie or bucket hat. I have made some content on my other channel, Moorlander EDC, about boonie hats like this. But maybe if you'd like to see some here, then you know I'm more than willing to. These are my favourite hats. At the end of the day, I'm British. You've got to keep something that keeps the sun off your head when you identify as having blue skin like mine. So yeah, great gloves. I genuinely do like these. I think these are better than some of the genuine, although I suppose mechanics aren't really a tactical glove. They've just been adopted by the tactical community because they're just good hard wearing gloves designed for mechanics. But yeah, great gloves. That's it for me. I keep looking there. I keep looking in the little monitor thing, which is really annoying me. I've been doing it a lot today, so apologies if I've been looking there and not there. So yes, although that wasn't the bird then, it's because I hold these. I do that a lot. I hold things like this and point with this finger. I don't know why I don't do it like that, but I'm waffling now. So I hope you're all having a good day. See you soon.